So I'm not
We're
going to
at
do the
30
welcome
seconds.
slide. I'm not going to do the welcome slide, only the end, the thank you slide.
We're at 30 seconds. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Durham's 18th Annual Women's Forum. My name is Beverly Thompson. I'm the Public Affairs Director for the city, and I will serve as your host tonight. This year's theme is Celebrating Women, Past, Present, and Future. I, like you, am looking forward to learning more about women who have made an impact on our lives right here in Durham. Many thanks to our awesome Neighborhood Improvement Services Department, led by the wonderful Constance Stansel, for making this program a reality. Now, COVID, the pandemic, has certainly altered how we congregate to share and celebrate life, but we are a resilient people. Not only did we opt to move forward with this moment, but we also wanted to acknowledge, while we're here, so many of the many great women in our city. We have transitioned this segment to a series of sessions rather than just one marquee event. Sorry about that. Tonight is our second session, and our topic of focus is education. And although we have areas of focus, just know that the overall goal of these sessions is simply to motivate you, whether it's to get you involved, to increase your knowledge about a topic, or just to take better care of yourself. There will be a session every Tuesday in March, same time, same channel, but with different panelists and speakers to present on other topics. I hope you plan to participate in every session. In fact, you need to tell a friend, bring a friend, and just know that there's plenty of room at the proverbial table. Tonight's session is a conversation. And while we can't see each other face to face, we ask that you stay engaged with your comments and with your questions. Simply drop them in the chat box. And just so that we can hear everyone clearly, we ask that you mute your microphone until the floor is open for your questions and comments, if there is time. Now, I'd like to introduce Ms. Melanie Gartrell of the city's Code Enforcement Division of the Neighborhood Improvement Services Department. She will present our purpose tonight.
Good evening. The Human Relations Division is proud to have hosted the Women's Forum almost 2 decades. As Beverly stated, this year is different than previous years, but we are grateful and welcome this virtual world as a change that has pushed us further. The purpose of this entire event is to highlight the power of love, the essence of inner beauty, the variety of skills and abilities, the virtue of perseverance, and the value of determination of our mothers, sisters, and daughters through education. I am a fortunate beneficiary of this vast goodness. As our world continues to change, I offer this challenge to you, to take this information and to use it for yourself, and then continue to pass along tonight's information. Remember, the journey of education is tough, but don't quit. Because a month from now, you will be much closer to your goal than you are. Yesterday you said tomorrow. Make today, this moment right now count. It'll be worth it.
Okay, Thanks so much, Melanie. Our first speaker tonight is Lillian Stubbs-McRae. She has been a resident of Durham for 2 years and a lifelong resident of North Carolina between her various military moves. She is a member of the glorious Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a member of the Cowles Temple AME Zion Church, a life member of the Hope County Civic League, and a member of the NAACP and the NCAE. She is currently pursuing her doctorate in community counseling care and pastoral counseling. She currently is in her 12th year of teaching and is currently a 6th grade teacher at the James E. Shepherd IB Middle School. She spent 10 years teaching in Hope County schools prior to moving to Durham. Her motto is, if I can empower students to know how valuable their education is, I can change their future.
Thank you and good evening. Special thanks to Ms. Constance Stansel and the City of Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services for allowing me to be part of this awesome panel. I am grateful and thankful. So let me share my screen. I'm going to talk to you a little bit from the educational, educator standpoint about our virtual education. And before I get started, I'd like to take a quick poll. If you would put in the chat for me, using a weather term, tell me, how are you feeling about virtual school right now? Can I see the chat? Okay, I have one cloudy. Couple cloudies. Cloudy with a little sunshine. Stormy. Foggy. Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you for those that participated. Hopefully at the end, you'll have another word for me. Why virtual school? Of course, we know we're all in virtual school due to our COVID-19. And it's been a safety factor for us. And right now it just had made sense until recently. What do we know? Yes, we know as educators, some students are at a disadvantage and our scores are probably looking lower. We also know as educators, our students are just not coming. And it's for various reasons. Technology, lack of Wi-Fi, a lack of support at home. And we know so far that testing still is on schedule. How can we improve and what can we do to help our students? Let's first of all ensure that our student is up and present and in school daily. I would like to say to you as an educator that virtual learning is not a new phenomenon. However, it is new to public school. But I also can say to you that Durham Public School staff did a great job at preparing us this school year for virtual education, and that students are able to learn if they are engaged. We are dealing with students that are not just being in class, students that are walking their dogs instead of being in class. So we need help as educators to get our students in the classroom. Parents, check grades on PowerSchool. You have the capability to track your students' grades, and you also have the capability to be an observer on our learning management system, which is Canvas. And if there are any concerns or questions, reach out to us as educators so that we may help you earlier than later. Well, it's all a mute subject. As you know, we are returning to school. Elementary students are due to return March 15th. Specialty high school, March 18th. Middle and high school, April 8th. Tips. If your student is returning, please make sure to remind them to keep their mask on at all times. We are not totally out of the COVID-19. However, we, just as much as you, educators, I know I'm an educator that know we need students back in the classroom. And by all means, if your student is not feeling well, please, please keep them at home. And anything that we can do for you as an educator, let's work together to make this happen. Now, tell me, how are you feeling about virtual school? I hope I don't have those same foggy. Okay, more sunny. Yes, still a partly cloudy. Is there anything or any questions that I can answer for you? The partly cloudy person, please put it in the chat. Better. Thank you.
Ms. McRae, there was a question in the chat.
Okay.
How do we keep our student motivated if we chose not to send them back to school?
Okay, so if they're not coming back to school, they still will have 2 days of virtual. Just encourage them to get on. I know I, as an educator, I use different software, different games, and just like I do polls to see how they're feeling, because I know social and emotional is just as important as education. So we are doing our part to make sure your child is feeling like they want to be there. So just encourage them to get on. Is there another question?
There is a comment,
Okay.
and there is a question. There are 2 more questions.
Okay.
Do parents have the options to keep a child at home, and what resources are available?
Okay, yes, parents still have the opportunity to keep their students at home. And even if you're in a classroom, we still will be virtual. We still will be using the computers. Least amount of paper as possible is what I've been told so far. So it's gonna be just the proximity of your child, whether your child is there with us so we can do a little bit more hands-on, or if they are viewing us on the screen.
Thank you. So about screens, what recommendations do you have when most activities are virtual? The concern is our children spending so many hours in front of the screen.
I think they are. And you know, we've always said we don't want our children to spend a lot of time on the screen. So what I do as an educator, instead of having homework after school, I build in time for them to do homework in school, whether it's the morning work when they first come in, or I build in like 5 or 10 minutes before they go out. So when school is over, for me, the screen can go off.
Thank you for that. We have 1 minute left, but I do want to ask this last question. How can parents reach teachers to ask for help? That's part 1. And part 2, are teachers really accessible?
We should be. I can't speak for anyone else. I can tell you, if you email us, also call, you can call the school. Someone's always at the school that can take a message for us. But of course, with it being virtual, email is the best way to contact us. And going into Canvas, you can use email through Canvas, which is our learning management system, or you can just use our school website and email address.
All right, thank you so much, Lillian, for that information.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. So next we'll discuss Senate Bill 37, and we have 2 speakers for that. Our next speaker is Jovonia Lewis. She's a counselor and community education advocate. As a parent who experienced inequity in her child's school and encountering the opportunity gap, she was determined to be an advocate for her 3 sons who attended Durham Public Schools to make sure that all marginalized children are seen, affirmed, and heard. In July 2020, she was sworn in as a school board member with Durham Public Schools Board of Education. Jovonia is a wife, a mother, and a nationally certified and licensed clinical mental health counselor with her undergraduate degree in psychology from UNC Greensboro and a Master of Science degree in counseling from Georgia State University. Rodriguez Teal is a principal at Pearsontown Elementary School, and this quote by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King sums up Mr. Teal. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Welcome. Thank you both.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Share my screen. There we go. So yes, I'm here to talk about Senate Bill 37, which has created a lot of confusion for a lot of us in the community and parents especially, and trying to understand how we went from being virtual learning all year to now coming back to in-person, and what does this mean? So as I give a quick overview about Senate Bill 37, what I'd like to share is, there we go. The catalyst, how we got here, the veto, and where we are now in regards to the Senate Bill 37, because it has been a whirlwind since from February 1st until now. So even as we were preparing for this presentation, there was still, Senate Bill 37 was still on the floor in consideration and what it would mean for Durham Public Schools and our policy. So Senate Bill 37, it highlights the purpose was to give in-person learning choice for all families in every school district in North Carolina. The CDC report, so the senators who brought this bill forward, they were on the premise that there has been an increase in child's mental health needs. The COVID-19 transmission rate appeared to be low transmission rate with mitigated efforts. The ABC Science Collaborative had confirmed no child to adult transmission in the 11 schools that they did research in or observations. And they also talked about the learning loss and the economic loss for families when we are 100% virtual in any school district. So the General Assembly introduced this bill for K through 12 to return to in-person learning under Plan A, and remote options would still remain available. However, adjustments could be made from the schools for student assignments if needed. And if Senate Bill 37 became law, we would have 15 days to enact and offer in-person learning for all children in K through 12. And as I talk about the guidelines, it's important to understand on February 1st, this bill was introduced, and that was the catalyst for Durham Public Schools to begin talking about what it meant to come back to in-person learning, to begin to put plans in place so that we could be in compliance with the law. However, on February 17th, the General Assembly ratified they ratified and passed the bill, and the governor would have 17 days to veto the bill. Well, on February 26th at 4:50, and I remember precisely because I began to get a lot of text messages, the governor did veto the bill. With this bill, and his reason for vetoing the bill is that it would allow school, it did not follow the North Carolina School Department of Health and Human Services or the CDC guidelines for safety measures, and it had minimum safety distancing within it. And also it removed authority from state and local authority if there was a variant of the COVID-19 to affect any school for them to go back into virtual learning. So the governor vetoed the bill for those reasons. And then by March 1st, there was the Senate failed to override the veto because they were going to try to override and still get it to become law, which would have meant we would have needed to start March 15th is where that March 15th date came from. And then March 3rd, they reconsidered the veto. And then March 4th, outside of Senate Bill 37, I wanted to add this to the presentation because it's important to know the North Carolina State Board of Education voted and passed a resolution for in-person option for all students in North Carolina by the end of March to be in effect. With their resolution, they are following the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services guidelines. They are offering remote learning for high-risk students and families. They are suggesting masks and 6 feet social distancing. And K through 5 can carry out the 6 feet social distancing. 6 to 12 have to be in cohorts for DPS also to be able to maintain the 6 foot distancing. So you'll see a couple of different cohorts and scheduling happening within that March 15th, March 18th, and April 8th dates for starting back to school based on these recommendations that's being followed. Regardless of what was coming out of SB 37, regardless of the resolutions that was passed by the North Carolina State Board of Education, it's important that you all know that Durham Public Schools was following the Department of Health and Safety guidelines, the CDC guidelines, and going above and beyond to make sure that protections are in place to mitigate risk and to maximize safety in the schools, regardless of what the law says. But this is how we got to where we were for this March 15th date. And as a policymaker, some of the decisions that I'm looking at and following for Durham Public Schools is, where is our students' mental health? As you heard in my biography, I am a licensed clinical mental health clinician, and I do look at the social emotional health and needs of our children, but also what we're seeing and hearing from community and parents about anxiety and depression their children are experiencing in isolation. We hear and we know about the academic needs. So what can we do to help increase the in-person learning in a safe way that we can receive our kids and help them to grow and meet the needs to get the instruction that they need the way that they need it. We have the guidelines to follow. There has been research around in-person instruction. There is evidence of no transmission rate in our learning centers that DPS is operating under these guidelines. There are vaccines that are beginning for our educators that were advocated for, that they would have at least 1,000 vaccines set aside each week for our educators to be prioritized when their group was announced. So we were ready for Senate Bill 37 if it were to become law. And I even have did some in-person visits with strong principal leaders, such as Mr. Teal, who's going to share with you from where we come from with the policy and what it looks like implementing it in person. So I will turn it over to Mr. Teal.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone, and I am happy to be able to share in this space some of the things that we're doing here at school. I've been a principal within the district now for 28 years, and this is probably the most challenging span of time in working in the school that I've had in terms of dealing with something as immense as COVID and trying to work around all the different things that we need to do to open up schools. I also think that one of the challenges that we've had with Senate Bill 37, as well as a lot of things surrounding COVID, as a building administrator, I am kind of caught in the middle between a lot of political feelings about what schools should do, as well as the staff and parents and how they feel about whether we should open school, whether they send their kids back and things of that nature. So there's a delicate balancing act that I'm having to play in order to be able to follow through with the mandates that have been coming down from our school board as well as our superintendent. Fortunately, here at Pearsontown, we have been ready to open up school since August, because we've been taking some very proactive approaches to kind of be ready whenever we were called to task to reopen. So some of the things that we have been doing here at Pearsontown, and you would probably find this in most other schools as well, we have employed social distancing strategies inside our classroom, even though Senate Bill 37 didn't actually outline that as a priority. One of the things that I chose to do as a principal is to hold to a high standard two particular things based on the data that I've gotten from my parents and being able to establish safety via the communication coming from Senate Bill 37. And those two things were just trying to make sure everyone that was entering the building to have a safe space to work and learn, whether it be staff members or students, because for me, it's just as important for our staff members to feel comfortable, because we want them comfortable so they can give their best to the students when they come back. If they're not feeling as comfortable, they won't give the students their best, and it tends to not allow them to grow and nurture them in these spaces like we want to. And particularly for my parents, because they have been working virtually with their parents all year, they really wanted me to try to make sure that they could maintain those student-teacher relationships for the remainder of the year. So with those two things in mind, we set out to create our reentry plan, which most schools had to create their own individual plans. And so we've been working extremely hard and very rapid, if I could say, to try to get things ready for Monday, March 15th. And so far, I can't say I'm very proud of my staff, very proud of how focused they are, because with what you hear in the news and nationally across this nation, most people would try to think that teachers are not very caring about students and where they are. But here at Pearsontown, I can really tell you that we are looking out for our kids. We want to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure they come back to a safe space. And the goal is to make sure that our teachers feel safe doing so in their teaching and learning communities that they'll be in when we get back. We do have some schedule changes that are coming back, and based on what I'm seeing, we're going to kind of start off with a tight schedule and slowly release ourselves to be having more movement in the building once we get comfortable in our community bubbles in the classroom. So I can tell you that Pearsontown, like most other Durham public schools, elementary schools, we are ready to open. We're ready to take on the task of making sure that we can finish this year with some sense of normalcy, not only for our kids, but also for our teachers as well, because they are very eager to get back in the building and work with their kids.
Mr. Teal, thank you. There is one question in the chat. Operationally, I believe you touched on it at the end there. Operationally, how do you keep students apart together?
That's going to be our challenge. We've never done this before. You know, one of the things that the staff is really concerned with is, you know, kids have been virtual all year. So they've been operating in their virtual bubbles without masks, interacting with their teachers on the computer. As soon as some of them come to school, that whole dynamic changes. They end up having to wear masks almost, 5 to 6 hours a day here at school. We have built-in maskless breaks, and we're going to have recess where the kids are going to have an opportunity to get outside and get into some sunshine and have some fresh air. But that is a challenge, because here in elementary school, and I've been a principal at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school, our elementary kids, they like to play with each other. They like to hold hands, and they like to hug and do all those things. So trying to keep them apart is going to be a challenge. So we have extra bodies supervising them at every place that they're going to be gathered in, and just trying to make sure we reinforce the fact that of the 3 W's, washing your hands, wearing your mask, and staying 6 feet apart, so that they can begin to understand how we need to operate in this new place of schooling. The other piece is some of our kids have already been used to school, our first graders all the way up to our 5th graders, but my kindergarten babies hadn't been in school at all, so that they only know what virtual school looks like. So there's going to have to be an onboarding of sorts for our kindergarten kids to make sure they feel comfortable moving around in the space and being apart from their parents, and all those little nuances that kindergartners go through at the first day of school when they come in. We're just going to have to try to implement that in a quick pace here beginning on Monday.
Okay, do we have time for one more question? I saw one question in.
I believe so. Thank you, Beverly. One more question for you, Mr. Teal, or for you, Ms. Lewis. What is your educational philosophy, and what do you do to help students understand the importance of education? Either one of you can answer, or both.
Ms. Lewis, would you like to go?
Sure. I personally, again, Maya Angelou, when you learn, teach. And the philosophy for me with children is hands-on, that you can learn in any environment that you're in, giving them an enriching experience, and follow the child's lead and what their interests are. and allow that to guide their education, the growth of their mind, and their curiosity?
My philosophy is very similar. I do believe all children can learn, but I do have an additional piece to that, and that they have to have someone who's willing to reach them and show them the way that they need to go. A lot of our kids, when they are going through school and they're learning things, they're learning them, but they get engaged and excited about learning because they have someone who's genuinely interested in them. Most kids these days, even down to as young as kindergarten, they know if you are interested in them, and they can tell if you really love them and you want the best for them, and they will rise to that occasion. But I've also seen where if a teacher doesn't vest time in them and show them that they really have an interest in their growth, then those kids shy away. And sometimes they seek it in other teachers and administrators and wherever. So I think that all kids can learn, but it has to be guided by someone who is vested and really interested in their growth, because that's where a lot of the stumbling blocks fall, is that relationship between that instructor and that student. And I've also seen where students have surprised me and others just based on that one individual's effort in making them grow. I see that there's a question about extracurricular programs I have at my school. I do offer I have a mentoring program in my school for both boys of color and young girls of color called Brother to Brother and Sister to Sister. And I've had this mentoring program for 20 plus years in every school that I've been in. And a lot of that was just based upon my experience of working with students in the school setting and helping them understand how they are supposed to posture themselves to stay in school and to be actively a part of what's going on. Too many of our young kids of color find themselves on the outside looking in based on their discipline, some of the discipline issues they may have, or even some of the attitudes that they present. They don't get to go on field trips, don't get to do a lot of other things that some of the other kids get a chance to participate in. And so my goal with Brother to Brother and Sister to Sister is to show them how they need to function so they can participate in the whole school and really learn how to be in school. So it's not always having to call the parents to get the child to act a certain way in school, that they learn how to do that so they can grow and mature and be the best they can be in this space.
All right, Rod and Jovonia, thank you so much. I really appreciate all that great information, and actually just hearing your philosophy on education was really enlightening. We're going to move on so that we can stay on time. The next two presenters will discuss the topic of continuing education and what you should know. Dr. Sharon Oliver has had a rewarding career in financial aid for nearly 30 years. She currently serves as the financial aid director at North Carolina Central University. Therefore, she fully understands the role that financial aid plays in assisting with educational expenses, as well as meeting the institution's fiscal responsibilities. She finds the work she does extremely gratifying because she is afforded an opportunity to support families from diverse backgrounds and to encourage them to make their dreams a reality. She strongly believes that the work that she does impacts the lives of others and positively contributes to the community, which is why she is passionate about her profession. Next, we have Dejanelle Henry. She certainly serves proudly as the Interim Associate Director of the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at North Carolina Central University. Serving the institution for 3 years, Ms. Henry has had the opportunity to recruit students from the Northeast DMV area, manage campus visits and travel processes, teach first-time students in the university seminar course, and now oversees NCCU's undergraduate admissions recruitment team. Ms. Henry is in fact a product of an HBCU as a Tennessee State University graduate majoring in mass communications. Ms. Henry earned a master's in education degree, concentrating in higher education. This New York native has a passion for furthering her own education with the purpose to emerge her compassion, her drive, and true commitment of serving Black and Brown students.
Thank you for the opportunity to share strategies for financing a college education. The key step, the very first step to receiving financial aid is completing the FAFSA application. And I know that some believe that it takes forever to do this form, but 30 minutes of your time can get you through this process. The FAFSA application provides funding at the federal level, and it also provides a guide for institutional aid as well as state aid. So it's a very critical form to complete. After completing the application on studentaid.gov, you have an opportunity to automatically transfer your tax documents. This is a way to streamline the financial aid process and make it much simpler and easier for you. You don't have to dig and search and look for tax documents. You actually can automatically upload that information. We strongly, strongly encourage you to do such. If for some reason you're not able to automatically transfer your tax data to the financial aid application, we do also welcome signed tax returns as well. An area that we strongly encourage students and families to always consider would be scholarship opportunities. This is the time to search for scholarships. You can search within the private sector, you can contact the school, fraternities, sororities, churches. Those opportunities exist. We all hear at the end of the year, millions of unclaimed scholarships. Take advantage of that free opportunity to finance your education. The types of financial aid available are scholarships and grants. They're certainly the most favorable because that's considered gift aid. You do not have to repay those funds. On the other side, there's something called self-help. And that will be if you're able to gain work study or working on campus or through student and parent loans. You are investing in self-help. You're either working or you will be required to repay the loans. Now, where does the money come from? Financial aid comes from a variety of sources, such as the federal government, employers, colleges and universities, private sources, as well as the state. Sometimes we feel, especially if we have previously enrolled in school, we feel that there may be financial barriers to returning to college, and maybe you have encountered a few of these barriers, but we'd like to share solutions for these barriers to make sure that your dream becomes a reality. One key area would be a defaulted student or parent loan. We'd like to remind you, you may have a defaulted loan, but in 6 months or even 3 months, you can clear that loan status by either through loan consolidation or loan rehabilitation. Loan consolidation takes about 3 months. Loan rehabilitation takes 6 months. So keep that in mind. If you have a defaulted loan, don't let that stop your dream. Another area could be you started college at a very young age, as an 18-year-old, and maybe you weren't really focused and ready at that time. But your academic history at that time continues to follow you. So for satisfactory academic progress, if you did not perform extremely well, there's an opportunity to appeal that decision. So that's the solution for what we call the SAP. And another area that could be a barrier is the way that the tax returns are filed. We all know that we're always looking for the most amount in a refund when we can from the federal government, if we can. In that effort, sometimes the tax preparers are not filing tax returns in accordance with federal regulations. Remember, these are federal dollars and we must comply with federal rules. In doing such, let me give you an example. If you are married, you have really 2 options for your filing status, and this is a key area. You may file married filing jointly or married filing separately. And also, may we remind you, if you have earned $12,400 or more, you are required to file a tax return if you're receiving student financial aid. And another area would be you started school and the reason why you haven't returned is possibly because you have an unpaid balance and there may be a transcript hold. Now, many schools will require you to clear that balance in order to release the transcript, but it's worth a try to ask, do you have a one-time transcript release opportunity? And you probably will need to pay a specific amount, but it's worth a try to ask. What I'd like for you to do is find your status on this chart, whether you've never attended college, or maybe you started an associate's degree, but you haven't earned it, or even if you have earned it. Maybe you're interested in pursuing a bachelor's degree and you may have started, but you've not completed. Or maybe you have already earned a degree and you're pursuing a second undergraduate degree. This chart helps you to identify the resources that are available to assist you based on the status that you're currently in. And I would say for the undergraduate certificate at North Carolina Central, we only support 2 programs in that area. But you may find at other colleges, they may have more certificate programs that are supported through federal financial aid as well. So I just want to put that out there. I didn't check federal and North Carolina grants for that particular area at North Carolina Central, simply because there are only 2 programs that we actually support. You can see on the chart, for example, if you never attended college, all of these opportunities may exist for you based on your family's estimated financial aid. After completing the financial aid application, you will receive a number called the EFC, and that's estimated family contribution. And based on that number, it tells you how much money you qualify for educational expenses. An example would be, if your EFC is 0, you will receive the maximum amount in the Pell Grant, which is $6,495 for the 21-22 school year. That's an example. In addition to that, if you've not earned a degree, you may also qualify for state grants simply by completing what we call the residency determination form. And that's called the RDS. You go through RDS and complete that form and validate that you're indeed a resident of the state of North Carolina. You may also be considered for funding from the state. Education is the key to unlocking the world, a passport to freedom. So we wish you well with your educational pursuit, and don't let the finances stop you, because there's money out here to support you. Just go after that money and get it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay. All right, are we ready to go on? Okay. Dr. Susan G. Paris is the Chief Academic Officer, Vice President of Academics and Guided Career Pathways at Durham Technical Community College. She works closely with academic deans, administrators, and faculty to ensure the quality of both non-credit and credit instruction, to support and advocate for faculty, and to champion the successes of students. As a first-generation college student, Susan began her educational career and her journey actually at a community college, and has a doctorate in education with a specialization in higher education leadership from North Central University. Dr. Paris is committed to ensuring students' persistence and completion through a lens of equity-mindedness and with the use of anti-racist strategies to address systemic racism wherever it's encountered. And next we'll have Dr. Makara Lewis Sessoms, and she serves as the Assistant Dean of Business and Entrepreneurship Programs and Coordinator of Work-Based Education at Durham Technical Community College. Dr. Sessoms has a professional desire to serve the community by focusing on engagement and collaboration that creates spaces and opportunities for individuals to build their human capital and enhance their own livelihoods.
Thank you so much. We all have a vision for our students, and we all want to invest in transformational learning environments for our students. And I think that much is very clear from the presenters. At Durham Tech, we're preparing students for jobs of the future, jobs that in many cases don't even exist yet. I think we can all agree that education provides students with options and the ability to earn a living wage. Durham Tech has made what's a rather bold decision to organize our educational programs into meaningful, guided pathways in order to promote upward economic mobility and regional talent development. This work is truly our opportunity to do something meaningful for our community and for our students. So when I say guided pathways, that simply means that we have an integrated, institution-wide approach to student success. We have intentionally designed very clear, structured educational experiences that guide each student from the time they start at Durham Tech through the attainment of a credential or degree. The goal is to encourage seamless transitions and reduce the potential for credit loss as a student moves from one credential to the next and eventually into employment. This ensures that students don't start, potentially change their minds, and then have to start all over again if they make a different career or program choice. I can provide a few examples of this to illustrate. Many of our students thought that college was not for them, but perhaps a student is interested in getting their commercial driver's license. At Durham Tech, you can take a course that prepares you to pass the written CDL exam. Later, you may want to come back because you're interested in our electric line technician program. The CDL license is required to begin the program, but the electric line technician program is a short 10-week course that allows you to train as an electric line technician. These are the folks you see climbing the pole. You can't be afraid of heights in order to go into this profession, but in only 10 weeks, you're trained for an electric line technician position. And along the way, you gain several other certifications, including OSHA 10 certification, American Red Cross, CPR and AED certification, and flagger certification. Those are the people on the side of the road. This program is fully funded by Duke Energy and is free of cost to students. And starting out, students that graduate from the program can expect to make anywhere between $38,000 and $52,000 a year, entry level. I wish that I had known such a career existed when my kids were trying to make decisions after high school. So perhaps that is not a good example for folks who aren't interested in working outdoors. Our advisors can certainly talk to you and help you determine what might be right for you. Perhaps you've always loved hair and makeup and doing nails. That's our cosmetology program. We have a non-credit cosmetology program where you learn everything that's necessary in order to get licensed in North Carolina. Then perhaps this is part of the pathways model. In a few years, you decide you want to come back because you're going to open your own business. You can continue and get a 2-year associate's degree in either business administration or perhaps accounting and finance, or you can get a certificate in entrepreneurship that focuses on business funding, marketing, innovation, and creativity. And the courses that you've taken along the way will all count when you seek that degree. We have many funding possibilities. I don't believe that anyone should have to go into great debt for a college education. For example, we have what are called promise funds for in-state students that graduated from high school within the last year, either graduated or have a high school equivalency. If you've graduated within the last year and you take 6 credits a semester, that's typically about 2 courses, you can receive up to $500 per semester for 2 years. Both of the programs that I mentioned would qualify for Promise funds. But perhaps you're not right out of high school. The Reconnect Fund is for Durham County residents age 25 and under that didn't enroll in college right out of high school. So again, if you're taking 6 credits per semester, you'd be eligible for $500 a semester for a maximum of 4 semesters. And there are many other opportunities for funding as well. Dr. Lewis Sessoms will share more information about some of our specific short-term courses to assist people in getting back to work and provide a bit more information on additional funding that's available. I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paris. This has been an exciting evening. So I just want to share with you all really quickly some information about our Back to Work initiative. And the purpose of this initiative, as you see on the screen, is for us to have an opportunity to highlight what we already do well at Durham Tech and with any community college. And that is provide short-term training, as Dr. Paris mentioned, that leads to lifelong skills. And so what we have done with the initiative, because we know that we have been in this space for a year now, and we found that people really want the opportunity to, and I'm going to use the P word, which is pivot, because of many different things that have happened because of COVID. And so what we did immediately was identify what are those short-term courses that we offer, and then think about some new offerings that we could provide for our community. We also conduct initial advising sessions to connect students with their areas of interest. So you would contact the college thinking about a short-term course you might want to take. But first, let's talk about what some of your interests might be and make sure that you're connected with the right area of the college in order to meet that need of your interests. And then, of course, it's important for us to make sure that we are aligning these short-term offerings with the service area industry trends. In other words, where are the industry trends that we are seeing that are going to be hiring, or what are those that, as Dr. Paris mentioned, we don't even know exist yet? She also mentioned opportunities for entrepreneurship. We know that this has been a time that a lot of people have decided that I want to do something different. You know, I've obtained some skills on my own and now want to become an entrepreneur. So how can I do that? And then if you want to continue on, we look at how we can continue to connect those educational pathways for career development and potential career enhancement. What you see there on the screen is just a snippet of the courses that we have offered as a part of the Back to Work initiative. And these are, as Dr. Paris mentioned, our short-term offerings. So these are courses that you see here on the screen can be offered anywhere from a year or less, and some even a week. So if you are an individual, you know someone who's thinking about enhancing their skills and really don't have a lot of time to do it, and as you mentioned, don't want to go into a lot of debt, those are the courses that we are featuring for our Back to Work initiative. You'll see on the screen that we have courses in the education industry, IT industry, the health industry, life science industry as well. Because again, we want to make sure that we are aligning these particular offerings where we are hearing that there's going to be growth in the industry. Also, resources. We just saw a really great presentation from North Carolina Central about financing your education. We also have financial opportunities outside of financial aid to help individuals to help pay for these courses and these opportunities. Statewide, we were awarded the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, or GEAR, and through that, we have the GEAR Scholarship. So that scholarship actually can help cover the cost up to $750 for those courses, as well as if you know anybody in Chapel Hill, Carborough, we have financing opportunities as well for those residents. Not only do we want to make sure students have those technical skills, but once you become a Durham Tech student, you also have the opportunity to take advantage of any type of skill and workshop that we offer with our career services and our human resources development area. We want to make sure students have technical skills as well as those essential skills. We also want to make sure that students have an opportunity to engage and connect with employers through our career fairs. Also looking at your cover letter, practicing mock interviewing. And then again, going back to those soft skills, we want to make sure that we are able to say that when students leave Durham Tech and they've had training, that they are able to communicate, have great time management, and also can problem solve. And what you see there on the screen, and we can provide that, is my contact information at Durham Tech, because we'll be happy to provide more information with you, not only about our Back to Work initiative, but for all the opportunities that we have for enhancing career development and just life in general. Education is the key. So thank you very much, Ms. Thompson.
All right, thank you both so much. There is no doubt that Durham Tech is a jewel in our community. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks to all of our guests for being here. And thank you all for attending tonight's session on education. We look forward to seeing you next week when our topic will be mental health. And just come to the same place at the same time, 6 o'clock next Tuesday. Look forward to seeing you then.